Also, if you're a Phillies fan, I'm sorry for your loss. The imminent one.
The Marlins
Hey,
are
Jeremy,
in
you want
the
to
Marlins
go?
have a playoff right now, so we're in the good timeline apparently.
All right, so we're gonna mute. If all the kids can mute themselves, because we have an amazing panel today. For those of you who don't know me, which I don't believe any of you do, I'm Jeremy Fine. I'm a rabbi in St. Paul, Minnesota. I never wear anything twins, but I did this for Danny alone. We have an amazing group here today. For those of you who want to check out more about Jews in sports, you can check out my website, thegreatrabbino.com, or if you probably Google the word Jews in sports, it might come up. Although it could be one of our panelists comes up too. So I'm going to introduce them from the amount of years they've played in the major leagues. So Craig Breslow played 12 seasons in the major league for 10 different teams and was a 2013 World Series champ. Also known as the smartest man in baseball, which can you confirm or deny that is true?
It's true.
I know better than to answer that.
It's true.
So, Greg, thank you for being here, and we're looking forward to hearing some of your stories. Next, Danny Valencia, who spent 9 seasons in the major league. He was on the 2010 All-Rookie team, and most importantly, is going to play in the 2021 Olympics, batting third or cleanup, probably. Danny Valencia. Danny, how you doing?
Doing good. Happy to be here. How's everybody doing? All right?
I think we're doing good, yeah. Avi's got pizza, so everyone – Avi, you're supposed to share that with the whole group. Just virtually send it to all of us. All right, next is Josh. Josh played for 2 seasons, and you best know him as being a dominant force on the Team Israel baseball closer. He did a little bit of everything. Josh played for the Astros and is now working for the Cubs. Josh, how are you?
What's up, everybody? Thank you for having me. Excited to talk.
And last is Josh Wolf, who has not yet played in the major leagues, but although he's in the Mets organization, so he could be called up any day now. That's just my guess, especially if you keep missing, if they keep losing players. They're definitely going to need help. Josh was drafted in the 2nd round of last year's draft by the New York Mets. Josh Wolf, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yankees are better.
Oh, wow. Starting to like that.
This is really a great group to speak here because there's a wealth of knowledge and different positions and different teams. I want to begin with something that is really unique, I think, to the Jewish panel, which is I believe this is correct. All 4 of our Jewish baseball players also went to Hebrew school. Is that correct? It's all on your Wikipedia pages. So when you were at a high level of baseball, which all of you were at a young age, Josh is still at a young age and at a high level, right? How is that balancing sort of next year? Actually, I think Josh Zeid and I actually spoke about this. How is that balancing going, knowing that you might want to play professional baseball with also sort of like your family's traditions of going to Hebrew school? Anyone can jump in.
I always tried to, honestly, back in those days, I tried to always talk my parents out of sending me to Hebrew school because I had baseball commitment. And instead, my mom was a real stickler. She made me go to Hebrew school. And then after the day was over, then we went and played the night games.
Oh, awesome. Josh, same for you?
Me, Josh?
Yeah, either one.
Go, Josh.
Yeah, so I went to Hebrew school all the way through middle school, and I actually didn't play baseball up until my freshman year of high school competitively. So I was more basketball during that time, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so I being Jewish was always a big part. And even though in high school I didn't go to a Jewish high school, I still made sure to stay close to the congregation I was going to, and try to help out in that side of the community. And that was a big thing for me, just, keeping close to the Jewish community in my neighborhood and making sure I still can make an impact, even though I didn't go to a Jewish high school.
Yeah, I'd probably just echo the sentiment that's been presented earlier. I think, everyone's childhood should be a giant juggling act, right? You're balancing a bunch of different things, and I think that's great. I think it develops some diversity, and for this particular group of guys, it was balancing religious commitments with sporting events. And as we've gotten older, we're still trying to juggle and balance schedules. It's just that the different commitments have changed a little bit.
All right, so let's talk about the call up to the major leagues. So each of you, that was a little different. Some of it took a shorter amount of time, a longer amount of time. When you got that call up to the major leagues, Josh, Zeid, let's start with you. What was that experience like? And when you first took that ball on the mound?
Yeah, so getting the call up to the major leagues, as you said, is an honor of a lifetime. For me, if you had told me I was going to play in the major leagues in high school, I would have told you absolutely. Like, that's the dream of mine. That was the goal. That was the end game. But as I went through college, I started to not be very successful and really, really struggled performance-wise on the field and in pretty much all facets of life. So to have fought back, support from my family and girlfriend at the time, she's now my wife, to get that phone call, to share that with my family, a huge roller coaster for probably 6 or 7 years before that day. I won't lie, I cried the day that I got my phone call. I didn't cry on the phone, but I cried after. I called my wife and I told her that there was a book. We were booking a flight to Baltimore for my major league debut, and faced Adam Jones from the Baltimore Orioles in the very first pitch. And he smiled at me when he got in the box, and he hit the ball about 400 feet to straightaway center field. Center fielder caught it, so that was really, really fantastic. But that was pretty much a warning of what the next 2 years was going to be like in the major leagues. Guys just teeing off on me, but it's okay. It was great.
Greg, what about you?
Yeah, so I suppose my major league story is kind of the quintessential Jewish underdog story. As a 5'11", so undersized, never really a pitching prospect. Always kind of a student first, I suppose, and was drafted late out of college. Didn't get a big signing bonus. Was released out of A-ball. And strongly considered going to medical school, right? Like all former Jewish athletes. And then I ended up just, thinking that I had a little bit more baseball in me, and joined an independent league team for about a half a season. And, in one of the more kind of serendipitous or coincidental moments of my life, I was pitching for our AA team in Mobile, Alabama. And this was with the San Diego Padres. Our big league club was in Philadelphia, and our team had played the big league team had played a handful of extra inning games in a row, so the bullpen was depleted. They were looking for reinforcements, and played extra innings on a Friday night prior to a Saturday day game. And our AAA team was in Portland, Oregon, and there was just no way to fly any reinforcements out in order to get there in time for Saturday's game. Our general manager, the Padres general manager at the time, was traveling with us in AA, just trying to kind of check inventory of the minor leagues, and got the call that the big league club would need an extra arm. And he asked the manager, who's the freshest arm that you've got down in the bullpen? And the manager said, Craig Breslow. And the GM said, who? We had never met. I'd never been to big league camp. But sure enough, I found myself in the big leagues in July of 2005, less than a year after having been released from A-ball. And actually, my debut, it sounds like, went a little bit better than Josh's. I struck out the first two batters that I faced, in a very ruckus Citizens Bank ballpark in Philadelphia. And after the game, Bruce Bochy was the manager of the Padres at the time. He called me into the office, and I had anticipated he was going to congratulate me and tell me how impressed he was that, this 24-year-old kid who had never been to big league camp, who had never pitched above AA, could walk into Citizens Bank ballpark and strike out Ryan Howard and Jimmy Rollins and face, Pat Burrell and Bobby Abreu. He didn't do any of that. He just sent me back down to the minor leagues after. So my debut was very much short-lived, but certainly something that will stay with me forever.
Danny, what about you?
Man, I got called up. It was 2010. I was in AAA with the Rochester Red Wings, a Minnesota Twins affiliate, and I think Craig played with. I don't know if Craig played for Tom Nieto at any point, but he was the manager at the time. Michael Kadire had gone on the bereavement list. I think he was having a baby, or actually, I'm sorry, he was going to a funeral. His wife's father passed away, and Tom Nieto said, "Hey, congratulations, you're going up to the big leagues. Kadire's going on a bereavement list or whatever they called it back then, and said, pack light, you're only going for a few days." And I never came back until 2012. But I was up for a couple of years before.
And Josh, you're still waiting for that call. So let's transition into just talking about this season, which has been kind of crazy. So minor league ball has been canceled, Josh, correct?
Yeah, it has.
So what are you doing to stay in shape, and both mentally and physically? Do they have you on regimens? Are you guys practicing in any way? How does that work?
So the pitching coordinator sent us a throwing program to kind of follow, and I've been doing that, and then working out on my own. But it's kind of, it's obviously tough because before, I guess, the season was started, the Major League season, we're kind of, preparing for something we didn't know when we were going back for. So that was always tough. And then now, again, it's like kind of waiting for the next move. It could be the 60-man. It could be winter ball somewhere. I could be possibly playing in Australia this year, which might be cool. Yeah, so just preparing for whatever that next step might be, and just keep it in shape for sure.
So two of you work for the Cubs. You work for an organization. I don't believe you guys are traveling with the team, correct? Neither of you. So what's it been like working day to day for a baseball? And are we expecting a full 60-game season? And are people optimistic?
Yeah, I suppose I should probably handle most of that. So certainly, as Josh had kind of alluded to, one of the biggest challenges that we face is how to optimize this time, and especially doing that in a remote environment. I think, fortunately, without kind of sharing, I suppose the saying is how we make the sausage. That seems inappropriate here, but how we make out of the matzo balls. We want to obviously keep some of the things that we feel like offer the Cubs a competitive advantage internal, but I think we're able to leverage technology, communication, and just the hard work of our staff, guys like Josh, who are really engaged with our players and communicating with them regularly and monitoring the progress that they're making. I think this unique environment requires a ton of creativity and innovation. And we've seen that both in terms of technology, but also just kind of the imagination of players. Like, we've had guys submit videos of mounds that they've made on their own, or, literally guys that have tied quilts to a tree in order to create a net to throw into. And I think this is really testing the commitment of guys. But beyond that, just to kind of circle back on your question, every organization is attempting to maximize productivity during this time. And I think everyone is going about it in a little bit different way. And I'm not sure, there's no playbook in how to survive, baseball during a global pandemic. And I'm not sure that we'll fully realize the impact until, potentially next season or even further down the road. But I think there's cautious optimism around this season. It sounds like the commissioner is committed to trying to see this thing through. I think collectively as an industry, we're hopeful that, there will be, outbreaks in clubhouses, but they can be kind of treated as one-off isolated incidents and contained. I think there's some accountability that falls on players and teams, and some that falls on MLB. But I think everyone is fairly optimistic and fairly committed to getting through a World Series.
Josh, have you noticed any of the pitchers you're working with and coming up with anything really innovative and unique?
So to give a little background about what I do, in 1 second, I'm the rehab pitching coordinator. So I deal with pitchers in our organization who have had significant injuries, surgeries, and they are returning to play. So as Craig had mentioned, it's really usually when our players are rehabbing, they're rehabbing for a specific date, right? They're ready to come back for, the All-Star break or what have you. So it gives them the of motivation. So we haven't. Fortunately, we've been pretty lucky. All of our players are highly motivated, have really good situations at home where, you know, they've got twin brothers who they can play long toss with, and their dads are super supportive, and they can play and they can throw with their kids if they can't get onto the field. So, I haven't seen my specific players with any creativity, but as Craig had mentioned, we've definitely seen some innovation, and it's really cool to see. It really showcases who's all in and who's, you know, really going to be ready for whenever it is that we are going to be all back together again.
Great. Yeah, that's interesting. And I think there'll be guys who come up who might have never had a chance. And I mean, as a White Sox fan, I've watched every game so far, and just watching some of the younger guys get a chance to play in a small time. Some of those great players are players the Cubs gave to the White Sox, which was wonderful as well. Danny, have you watched any games so far? Your thoughts? I know you're not out there this season, but like, have you heard from friends that they're enjoying the time? Is it weird not seeing fans? Do players draw energy from that? What's sort of your analysis?
I think, you know, from my buddies who are still playing, they definitely feel like they're jumping through a lot of hoops just to be able to play games, and I think we'd be all aligned to think it's not a little irritating on a player's perspective. You know, your day-to-day is already consumed with so many different things. Now all the safety protocols and all the safety measures, from what I understand, that they have to go through has been challenging. But, you know, everybody's happy to play baseball. It's, you know, it's a kid's game we've all done our whole lives. So whenever chance we can get out there, we always want to do it. I do think that, you know, getting the energy that you would usually get maybe from the crowd and from like a high pressure situation, I think that's not there this year like it would be if, you know, the 45,000 fans are in the stands. But, you know, players have to like dig deep and make it happen. It's really just a short sprint, 60 games. And, you know, before you know it, the offseason will be here. They want to get through it, but they also want to play well. I think everybody out there has a lot of pride.
Could any of you see a scenario in which, let's say, you know, so the Marlins obviously had the biggest outbreak and seemed the one that wasn't contained the most. The other teams, there's a small outbreak, but it was just a small amount of people. Could you imagine something if we have one or two more of those major outbreaks where, and I know this was proposed originally, where there's sort of like a bubble type experience like the NBA, or even I know the Astros and for example, the Astros and the Nationals have two fields for their spring training that they share. I've been there. It was brand new. It's beautiful. Could it be a scenario where there's two fields and there's just games going on, at least for the playoffs, in a warm environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is yes. There is likely a scenario in which you know, that idea is at least entertained. Obviously, you know, the NBA is kind of moving forward with that model. I think it certainly carries some pretty obvious benefits. You know, and there are also some drawbacks. You know, and I think especially in the playoffs, you know, it could potentially make sense to look further into. You know, and this is not you know, firsthand knowledge. I'm just kind of strictly speaking from my opinion. You know, given like a smaller number of teams, a tighter time period to play those games. You know, you're not asking guys to leave their families for 4 or 5 months at a time, but rather, you know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, just to kind of see the completion of a season through. So, I mean, I suppose it wouldn't completely shock any of us to see, you know, that idea at least gain a little bit of momentum. I don't know exactly, you know, where we'll land on it though.
Okay, so let's get back into some of your career. So, Danny, best pitcher you ever faced, and the easiest pitcher you ever faced. Like, who'd you have the most success against, and who just threw a slider that you just could not hit?
I'd be fine if my name doesn't come up in either of those, actually.
Did you guys ever face off?
Yeah. I think when you were in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, I've got some at bats off Craig. He's always been,
and Baltimore. Yeah. Actually, you were really successful against me.
I feel like I played against you a ton. Being in Toronto when you were in Boston, playing in Baltimore, Minnesota. I played against Craig a lot. I think toughest pitchers I ever faced it's usually a bullpen guy for me. Like, I don't think I've ever really made solid contact against Dylan Betances, let alone ever felt comfortable in that batter's box. I've had a lot of success off guys like David Price, Zach Greinke for whatever reason, but it's more luck probably than anything. I've always hit left-handed pitching pretty well, so most lefties I've always, I felt like at least I'd have good at bats against. But I would say the toughest pitcher I faced is probably Betances in who's most recent, and the person who I had like the most success off of probably be David Price.
Who was that?
In other words, you can't fight with the Yankees.
Danny, and David Price is I think the biggest name that opted out for the season, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, Buster Posey's a big name. There's been some big names.
Sure. Buster Posey is one of the best catchers I've ever seen.
Ryan Zimmerman opted out.
So, Josh, what about you? Maybe it was in the majors or in the minor leagues. Who was the toughest out you had to get?
Well, Danny hit 2 home runs off of Craig, so I just want to throw that out there. I apologize. So I very rarely can I ever say something to Craig with that like I can say like that was sorry. The best hitter that I ever faced.
He hit 571 with a 1429 OPS. Slugging, like whatever, like OPS over 2,000.
You played 11 years in the you guys played a combined 20 years in the big leagues. I think that's okay. I think that's pretty special. The scariest hitter I ever faced was Johnny Gomes when he was with the Red Sox in 2005. I think it's 14. He had this big beard. He looked terrifying. He was big, hunched over in the batter's box. I just remember him being the most intimidating. I mean, I was lucky enough to face David Ortiz and Dustin Pedroia and Adrian Beltre, and I did relatively well against them. But Josh Donaldson and Cespedes had my number. Every time I faced them, it was like ball off the wall. So. But, I mean, they were really good, so that makes me feel a little bit better.
They do that to a lot of players.
Yeah. Thought pitching in Oakland was the worst. That's when they were both with the Athletics, and for me, that was the scariest place to pitch. The lighting was kind of bad. The fans were really loud. The bullpen always smelled like a sewer. It was, but yeah, no, still pretty special since it was, at that level, so.
Let's shift gears to Team Israel baseball for a moment. So, Josh, and Craig, we'll start with you guys because you guys played from the get-go. And then, Josh, you continued with the team. And now Danny's taking the step, and I'm looking at Josh Wolf as our frontline pitcher in the future with Max Fried and Josh Wolf. I think we got some horses, which has always been – I feel like, Josh, you almost pitched every game, every inning. That's what it felt like to me during those days. So what was that experience like representing Israel – and then the success of it, what has that experience been like for you both?
So for me, I guess I'll start since I was, and at least in this panel, I've been on Team Israel since 2012. I pitched all 3 games in the qualifier for the World Baseball Classic in 2012. And then I pitched in 2 out of the 3 games in the 16 qualifier, and I pitched in 4 out of the 6 games in the World Baseball Classic in 2017. It's been an absolute honor, virtually life-changing, just to be asked to be on the team. It's allowed me to travel all across the world, meet some incredible people, lengthen out my professional career as well. But my professional career didn't go as I had planned. I did get to live out my lifelong dream of playing in the major leagues, but playing for Team Israel actually got me my baseball hat. It's actually in Cooperstown now, which is the biggest honor of my life. Obviously, besides my 2 kids, my wife, my family, all that really cool stuff.
But you have to stay right now.
She's not here right now, so we're good. But playing on Team Israel, I've met some of my best friends in my life, and just having that luxury of I get to go to Cooperstown with a lifetime pass, and that's, for me, I'll never forget that. It's something that I hold true and dear to my heart. And, I look forward to having a relationship with the team and also the country now, which I am a citizen of. So it's just been really special. Yeah, overall.
And Craig, you pitched on the first team, right?
I joined the qualifier it would have been
16.
2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say like what probably started out as a bit of kind of selfishly intentioned practice, in terms of I struggled through the 2016 season, was home in late August for the first time in probably 20 years, and this gave me an opportunity to continue to play and to demonstrate that I had intentions of continuing to play. But very quickly that turned into, I think Josh called it a life-changing opportunity or life-changing experience where, for a long time, I think all of us would say that we're aware of the other big league players who are Jewish because there are so few of us. We kind of create this immediate bond, no different, I would imagine, than, when there are a handful of Americans in a league abroad, right? And this was the first time, for me that someone actually kind of picked all of us up and put us in the same dugout. And it was a far more gratifying and educational experience than I ever thought it was. I thought it would be, you had mentioned I played for 10 different organizations. I thought in a lot of ways this would kind of be my 11th, but this was actually a group of people to whom I had a connection that I never anticipated. There was just so much more on the line than wins and losses on the field. I think we grew together. We came to appreciate our identity, our ethnicity in a way that, like I said, I had never envisioned and never imagined. And circumstantially, I wasn't able to join the team at the WBC 6 or 7 months later. And that's absolutely something that, I kind of look back on and feel like I missed a life-altering opportunity. But just in a couple of short weeks, I think the bond that I had made, and I would imagine these guys would support, was just so beyond what I expected when I first agreed to join the team.
And Danny, you're going to the Olympics next year. It was supposed to be this year. And the team did incredible. It looks like it will be getting more help, and Ian Kinsler and potentially others. So Danny, what's that experience been like bonding with this team, and what do we have to look forward to with the Olympics?
Well, I mean, I try to recruit players, and I shot a text over to Craig privately. He was trying to duck and dodge my question to see if he's still got some bullets left in the left arm. And I think Josh is going to play. At least I know he's coming, right?
Yeah, I'm actively training as long as my boss gives me the time off and I can still hit 92, 95. We'll see. Yeah, I'm still training. I have a mound in my backyard and I'm throwing every day, staying in shape and just hopeful for that opportunity, Yeah. But anyways, yeah, continue. Sorry.
It's been an amazing experience. Peter Kurz, who's, president of the Israel Association Baseball, has been trying to get me to play on the qualifiers that Josh played in back then. But we all, like Craig was saying, we had prior commitments where, we weren't able to go because of playing in Major League Baseball. But it's always something I wanted to do. And very similar to what Craig said, I find myself in 2019 not really, sitting on the couch, but feeling like I could still play in good shape. And Peter called me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing, qualifiers to have the opportunity to maybe play in the Olympics? And I said, why not? We get to have some fun, play some meaningful games, travel abroad. And nobody would have thought it would have been the way it turned out. But here we are. We're going to be going to the Olympics, next year. And it's a great group of guys. It's something that really draws us all together through our religion and our beliefs and the way we were raised. So I thought that was very, very unique. We are the minority when we are in the league. There's all the time, these guys will tell you, there's always chapel on Sundays, and there's not many Jewish players in Major League Baseball. So we all know who each other are. We all well aware of who's Jewish out there. So I think we kind of have that in common. But it's definitely been a lifelong experience. I cherish it. I'm very, very involved right now with it. But the goal is still win the gold medal. We want the best players we can have. So guys like Josh and guys like Craig and Kinsler's like. We need everything we can to be able to compete and win against the teams that we're going to have to beat.
And Josh Wolf, so future Team Israel on your radar? Is that something we can expect from you?
So it's funny because, since I was 15, I was asking, I think it was, I don't even know, but somebody from Israel to be a part of their, I don't know, either the 15U team all the way to the 18U. So now, hopefully, again, I haven't been asked, but I've gotten, I've exchanged emails, and they said, probably in the next WBC is when I'll have a chance to be on that team. and I think that'll be in 2022. I think that was also pushed back. So
2023 now.
20. Oh, okay, so yeah, even later. So I'll be 23 by that time. Hopefully, in the bigs also. So that's the goal to play in the WBC with Team Israel.
Yeah, and there's some other, just for the kids, there's some other guys who was on another call with Josh and I and Danny where with Evan Kravitz, who was drafted in the 5th round. Max Fried is obviously a great pitcher for the Braves, and Hunter Bishop, who should get called up next year, and Garrett Substers. There's a bunch of guys who are coming up who if they play for Team Israel, will continue to help that grow. So I want to throw one more question to the players, and then have the kids, if anyone has questions. You can put them in the chat. You can chat me privately. This way it's not just everyone talking over themselves, but you can ask the questions and I'll ask them for you. So looking back on your baseball days, and Josh, it's a great idea to leave, let's say leave family life out of this for a moment. What's your biggest achievement on the field? And what's your biggest achievement on the field? Let's leave it at that so far. So we'll start from youngest to oldest.
Okay, so I really don't have a lot of pro. I pitched 8 innings in pro ball so far, so I don't really have a big, I guess, moment in professional baseball. But I guess going back to high school, in my state semifinal game, we lost that team twice, and I pitched one of those games, and it was a big game, obviously, and I got to pitch that, and I threw a complete game 1-0 shutout to send us to the state finals, which in my opinion was my biggest, I guess, moment of my baseball career, other than, I guess, on the field. Being drafted was probably the coolest moment for me, but I'd say on the field that was probably my best moment.
All right, Josh, other Josh, big Josh.
So the I'll follow up and say, obviously getting drafted was the biggest momentous, was a culmination of a lot of things. But I was on the mound in our low A. We won the league championship in the South Atlantic League, and I was on the mound when we got the last out against current Red Sox catcher Christian Vasquez, and I was at the bottom of the dog pile. That was the only dog pile I've ever really been trapped under, and it looks really cool from the outside, but it's a horrible feeling when you're at the bottom. It's terrifying. But I mean, beyond that, the win against South Korea in the World Baseball Classic in Korea against the Korean national team was definitely the most exhilarating, most proud culmination of lots of hard work for Israel baseball and personal goals as well. So I'd say those two are definitely just kind of up there on my wall of fame, wall of just great moments.
Danny?
Man, professional baseball career, highlight?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Because playing the College World Series to me was one of the coolest things I ever did, to be honest. It was such a cool experience for college players that to me I cherish forever. In big leagues, I hit 3 home runs in one game. I guess that was the highlight game of my career. But being able to play in the playoffs against the Yankees in 2010 was a really cool experience. And now being able to eventually, hopefully, play in the Olympics, which will probably be another monumental experience for me as well. Baseball's been great. One thing about baseball, it's helped us meet really, really cool people, see, all types of places throughout the world. And man, I'm still a child now, 35 years old. I still think like a kid and feel like I'm in a locker room. So it's baseball has been great, and those are probably my most popular experiences.
All right, and Mr. Breslow, World Series champ.
Yeah, so if we're to just kind of work through this sequentially, I suppose in college, the highlight, I went to Yale, and Harvard is our kind of arch rival, and then my senior year threw a complete game shutout against Harvard at Harvard, which I thought was going to be kind of the crowning achievement of my baseball career until getting drafted, and making my big league debut. And then there's probably, I would say, 2 moments that stand out. One was after kind of struggling through a couple of seasons of being up and down between AAA and the big leagues. I was designated a handful of times and then claimed by the Twins, actually. And I can remember my first outing was at the Metrodome against the Yankees, and in that outing, I think I struck out. It was like A-Rod, Bobby Abreu, Giambi, Cano, and Matsui, I think, in 2 innings or something like that. And Ron Gardenhire was the manager at the time. I gotten to the stadium late and hadn't had a chance really to meet him or introduce myself. And so our first exchange was when he came out to take me out of the game. And I can remember saying, well, that was pretty cool. Was what he said to me as he came to get the ball, and I kind of marched back into the dugout. And then, the final thing, as you had mentioned, winning the World Series and actually being a contributing member of a World Series team. And it was statistically my best season, and also a really unique situation, a really special group of guys that came together around, a horrible tragedy in Boston. And I can remember pitching against the Rays in the ALDS and coming in down 1-0, striking out the first 4 batters that I'd faced. So I got the last out in the 7th inning, or last out in the 6th, maybe, struck out the side in the 7th in the playoffs, and that was I think it was like Longoria, then Zobrist and Desmond Jennings, and then we took the lead, and I went back out and got 1 more out, and so it was the winning pitcher in the deciding game of the ALDS, which was I think something that I'll always be grateful for, and something that at least for a little bit while longer Boston fans will be appreciative of. So I think I'd point to those things.
For sure. And as someone, I've been to so many parks, and there's just nothing like Fenway. I mean, it's really for those of you who are not a Red Sox fan, but if it is, it's just amazing. I don't even the idea of it gives me chills down my spine just wanting to go back there. And it's an amazing place to play. I'm sure a tough place to pitch because the dimensions are different, but probably that much more rewarding. So we're going to go to some of the kids' questions. So Jacob asked, what was it like playing in the WBC in Asia? Which I do know that was part of the sort of negotiations for a lot of the players, was having to go so far away before the season. I actually asked Alex Bregman when he was first coming up if he considered it. I had met him and asked him, and he said had it not been in Asia, he would have considered it, even though he turned out to be a star for Team USA. But still, I think that played in a lot of people's minds. Josh, let's start with you. What was that like, going over to Asia? Did they understand Israel? Was the food different? That kind of stuff. And how did that play a role in sort of your experience there?
There's a lot of questions in there, and there's a lot of ways that I can answer that. I'm actually going to go to the food first, and I apologize if anybody eats is Orthodox and it eats very kosher or whatnot. But when we went to Japan and Korea, I went on a food tour with MLB.com, and we ate at some restaurants in some shady parts of town, and we were eating live food that was still moving, and food that it was very interesting. And we actually had to play the next day, so in retrospect I probably shouldn't have done that. Fortunately, I had a lot of Pepto with me and a lot of Tums with me, so things were fine. That's a lot of information. I apologize, everybody. But actually going over to Asia to play was a really important thing for me. At the time, I was a free agent, and I was having a hard time finding a job in America, and I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to continue playing. So I was using the tournament kind of the way Craig was using the tournament in 16, as either 1, to see if I still had it, or 2, to see if it was going to be the end of the road for me. So I actually used it as like a showcase. Because I know how great the baseball is in Japan and Korea and Taiwan, and I went over there very hopeful that if I played well, I could pick up a job opportunity over there. So I used every outing as I kind of used that motivation out there, and it actually worked out really well for me. I came back to the States and got a job with the St. Louis Cardinals. But the Asian experience of playing out there is one of a kind. There's nothing like it. I don't know if Craig or Danny has ever played in Japan or Korea, but it is live music while you're pitching, cheerleaders dancing over the dugouts. It is like they're hammering sticks. It's crazy. Everyone's it's amazing.
Yeah, it looked, and I've seen some of that footage. It looks funny, and we're all also hoping today, hopefully Ryan Lavarnway gets called up, right? That's what we're hoping. That'd be great news for all of us. Okay, I got another question. This one's from Jonah. Who's the funniest player you've ever played with? And you can't say Danny. I think that is, you can't say yourself, Danny. I think that's fair, right?
I don't know why I would be that guy.
Because the last time we were just ripping on Sam Fold like that was
Not Sam. No. Sam.
Sam got into the Phillies front office, and now it's big time, man. That's why Craig's not even answering back my question. See what happens? You guys change when they stop playing.
So who's the funniest player you guys have been around?
Oh, man, Gerard Dyson for me has been one of the funniest. He outfielder, we played together with the Royals and the Mariners, and he always had a comeback for everything. He was never shy to speak his mind. He told our manager at one point that he had the heart of a squirrel in front of the whole entire team in the dugout. And I just never seen anything. I've never heard guys speak like that to coaches. And he was the one who could not only say it, but he got away with it. And he's a very funny guy.
Josh, either Josh, someone funny you played with, maybe it's a teammate, maybe it's someone coming up in the Mets organization with you.
Josh Zeid, you got this. I don't have any.
George Springer was hilarious. Coming up with George Springer, he can make you laugh doing just about anything, and I remember that. We were not the best team when I played for the Astros. We lost probably close to 200. We lost more than 200 games while I was there over 2 seasons, and he could make you laugh. He would take his job very seriously. He was very good at it, but he could make you laugh like that, and that you can't take that for granted, especially when you're losing. It's really a good quality to have.
Greg?
Yeah, I think Ryan Dempster is probably the guy that jumps out as someone who could have been a comedian or is now trying his hand at comedy. He's got his own kind of baseball late night talk show. He does some great impressions of Harry Carey and some other kind of baseball legends. But a guy who did a great job of keeping a clubhouse light, but also was kind of impeccably professional, carried himself in a manner that represented baseball and represented his organizations really well, and someone that I admired as a teammate, but also could look to as a source of entertainment.
How important is that you have some guys there that maybe aren't the greatest on the – I mean, Ryan Dempster had 1 or 2 very, very good seasons, but maybe aren't the greatest player, but their importance to the clubhouse is that we don't see as just fans, but how important is that there are guys that keep the clubhouse loose and fun and enjoyable?
Yeah, I think it's critically important. But you can't have too many of the guys that are just funny and not very good at baseball because you don't end up winning too many games. But certainly finding kind of the right mix, is a key ingredient to success. There are a handful of teams that are just more talented than others, and kind of regardless of the personality or identity of the team, they'll just go out and beat teams. But I think we're seeing that with a pretty level landscape in baseball, in terms of everyone having the same access to information and technology and scouting databases. I think oftentimes we see that the teams who win are those that kind of get behind a common cause, the guys that pull for each other and are accountable to each other. And it takes certain strong personalities in the clubhouse in order to facilitate that.
Avi wanted to ask the favorite moment of a recent season, but not from your experience. Has there been a moment in baseball, like a wow moment or a player or a moment in baseball that you've just really loved watching as a fan, let's say?
I can take that one. I actually don't even remember the specific moment, but I remember the moment. I don't remember if it was the playoffs, if it was just the end of the season. I remember David Bodie facing Ryan Madsen in Wrigley Field, and he hit a grand slam late in the game. I don't remember. Maybe Jeremy, you remember what game that was, if it was the playoffs or whatnot. But I remember watching it and thinking that was the coolest moment in all of sports. I'm gonna try to look it up now, but it was. There are very few times. Actually, there's a lot of times in watching professional sports that wow me. But that one specific moment was just so cool.
Yeah.
I think when Jeter hit the homer for his 3,000th hit off of David Price.
David Price, yeah.
Pretty cool.
You could have hit that homer off of Price, right? Didn't you say it was the? Oh no, someone said that? Yeah, didn't you say that?
Yeah, I hit him well. I never hit him over the fence, just off the top of the wall.
That's fair. Yeah, there's been some great moments over the last couple of years, and especially since I think over the last 10 years, even you've had so many teams who have won either their first or the first in 100 years World Series, which has made it very, very unique between the Astros and the Cubs and the White Sox and the Red Sox. So many historic moments have been created. And then you've had some really great hitters retire recently. Even I was just thinking Adrian Beltre and how he was so revered in baseball that like everything he did, if you watch the best are when you watch like these YouTube videos of him messing with other players, just hilarious. And you don't realize because you're watching the game in time. Let's see, Gabe wanted to ask, do you feel a connection? You spoke about this a little bit to some of the other Jewish players, and one specifically talked about Kevin Pillar, which who was on the last call. Danny, I know you're close with Kevin, and Kevin's hoping to play in the future for Team Israel. So do you guys ever you said there's Sunday chapel, but are there like tips of the cap, nods, jokes, between Jewish players that ever come up when you're on the field?
I think that's what gravitated me to Kevin at first. When I first met him in Toronto, it was like, he was Jewish, and we kind of hung out because of that. But I mean, other than that, he's a great guy, but that's kind of how it started. Can't really think of anything else.
No, that's true. And
he's as good as it gets.
And at one point there were, I think, 4 Red Sox on one team. Was that you? Was that you as well? Were you on that squad, Craig?
Yeah. So Euclid, Kapler, Adam Stern, and me, I believe, was the quartet. And yeah, there's certainly and then Theo, and there's certainly a bond. It's kind of this like tacit understanding that we've got something in common, or we've been through, we've had similar experiences. And anytime I'm asked about it, I do always want to point out, and this is not to kind of discredit or devalue the significance of being Jewish, which I think we all embrace, and it's the reason that we're here today. At the same time, like I've been pretty outspoken about the fact that when I put on a uniform or I walk into a clubhouse, like I want people to look at me as a baseball player and a teammate, and not the Jewish guy, which I know is kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth, saying that like I'll tip my hat to the Jewish guy, across the field, but I want my teammates to look at me as just another guy playing baseball. But that, that to me is the way that I've tried to view any of my other teammates, independent of their backgrounds, their religious beliefs, ethnicities, and whatnot. Living that is, as we talked about earlier, about guys that kind of keep a clubhouse light, or ensure that everyone is kind of pulling in the same direction. If we look at everyone as this, kind of as defined by their kind of unique backgrounds, like certainly we should appreciate them. But at the same time, like we're all putting on the same uniform, we're all going out and trying to win a game tonight, and I think that's what's important in terms of the commitment that we make to each other.
Yeah, that seems to be one of the most important things about sports. And I think what we miss right now in our country, maybe even all the more so, is that sports are the great unifier. Because when you say like, don't take this out of context, I hate the Cubs, which is true. I'm a diehard White Sox fan, right? So although someone once said, would you work for the Cubs? I said, of course, but I would still root for the White Sox. Right? So, Josh, I don't know if that was in your contract when you signed it with the Cubs, but but there, it's not real hatred; it's sports hatred, which is so different. You don't actually, I loved Andre Dawson. I didn't actually hate him. I thought he was an amazing baseball player. That's what drove me crazy about Andre Dawson, was that he was good and he was playing for the enemy, right? Had he been traded to the White Sox, I would have been thrilled about adding him to the lineup. So there's sports is that exact thing. You are who you are off the field, and you celebrate, or you worship, or you even experience differently, and together you come all as one, which is, I think, what the country is based upon, and that's the significance of sports. We only have a few minutes. I want to
add to that though, real quick,
because
Craig played with the Red Sox. Were you there, Craig, in 2012?
Yep.
So we were teammates then, because I came over there the last 2 months. Bobby Valentine was the manager.
Yep. Yeah, no, I remember. Clearly, I made quite an impression on you.
It was so it's funny that you were talking about this, because I came over there and we were playing the Yankees, and you know, we're all told about the Boston Red Sox, New York Yankee rivalry, but the players have lots of respect for each other. It's not like the Boston Red Sox players hate the New York Yankees players. In fact, most of them are friends and buddies and hang out together after the games. So like you said, it is more of a sport hate than actual like real like dislike for each other. I mean, Craig played there longer than I did, obviously, and he could probably touch on that, but that's kind of the impression I got.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
there's added pressure when you play the other team because you want your fans to win or your team to win. So I want to give each of our panelists just a moment to, if they want to plug anything, if they have a podcast or an organization. They all do great work, and they're all in very different spots in life. And I want to just give them an opportunity to say a word if they have something.
I guess I'll start real simple. Just I got Instagram and Twitter. It's Josh Wolf 30 on both.
Love it.
Yeah, so that's easy. I mean, if any of y'all want to, hit me up and DM me about anything, I'll be happy to answer. And just let me know. Yeah, for sure. Perfect.
Josh?
I don't have anything to plug or anything to sell you guys on, but I think the thing that I would stress, you know, as we finish today is just, you know, go like this is as cheesy and as corny as it sounds, and I get that. So Craig and Danny, spare me. I apologize, but you know, one of the things that I think growing up, especially I grew up in a very Jewish household. I went to Hebrew school 3 days a week. I just observed all the holidays, did everything that in my mind back in the day got in the way of sports. But you know, having dreams is super important, and just because you don't necessarily have maybe the means of trying to attain your every dream, but it's important to dream and try as hard as you can to believe that anything is possible, right? Like nothing is impossible. Have fun, appreciate where you are in life, and just really, I don't know how to even finish the sentence, but you know, just continue to dream and have fun. Really, that's what I did, and it really paid off, and I'm really thankful that I set my sights high even as young as 5 or 6 years old. So,
Right, Danny.
And he said it great, Josh. This really, same thing. Have fun. You know, I have nothing to plug really. Just here to answer questions and, you know, share our insight. But yeah, dream big. Don't think just because, you know, we're Jewish or whatever it is that you don't see a lot of us playing in the league doesn't mean you can't do it. Dream big, that's for sure, and set the bar high. It's okay. It's okay to fail also. I mean, a lot of us here experienced a ton of failure, right? It's not been all success all the way through. We've had our fair share of adversity. So.
All right, we'll end with the smartest man in baseball.
Oh man,
I hate going before him. He sounds better than me all the time.
I would probably try to relay two important messages. I think one, just kind of under this umbrella of you know, all being here to kind of celebrate and embrace our Judaism, is just this idea that I think establishing a religious identity doesn't come with a very well-defined timeline. You know, when we were 7, 8, 9 years old, going to Sunday school or going to Hebrew school was something that was kind of imposed upon us. And I think all of us, you know, later on in our lives have come to kind of embrace that experience, to look back on that experience as, you know, kind of helping to form who we've become as adults. And I'm not sure that any of us, I don't want to speak for anyone else on the call, but I'm not sure that any of us would point to Judaism playing such a significant life in our personal lives and in our athletic lives as it has. So, you know, I think we need to kind of both recognize the willingness to be open to, you know, allowing our religious identity to kind of grow and come into our lives at various times, but also just being open to having different experiences, being exposed to as many things as we possibly can, because 10 years from now, you know, this version of each of you that's 10 years older really has no idea what you're going to find most important. So that would be one thing, is just this idea that, there's very much no kind of playbook or no manual to guide establishing a religious identity. And there may be something that has already happened to you or something that will happen to you down the road that just kind of sparks some type of significance. And then the second thing is just piggybacking Josh's idea of kind of, he said have fun. I think that's actually exactly right? Like we're in an increasingly competitive, single sport environment, and sport doesn't have to just be baseball or basketball or football. Sport could be music. It could be any particular hobby where we've just kind of limited the diversity of our childhoods, right? Like go out and play something or do something or read something or watch something because you enjoy it, not because you feel like it's the right thing to do or because your parents are putting a ton of pressure on you to do it. Because I think the value of diversifying your experiences is far greater than just, yes, I play basketball and soccer and football, but if you think about it, you'll come into contact with a bunch of different groups of people. You'll make different friends who have had different experiences. And I think all of those start to kind of round out your own identity. And I just hate to think that we're increasingly finding a population of kids becoming adults who have only known one thing in their lives, whether that's a single sport or a single hobby or a single demographic. I think it's important now more than ever to just understand and celebrate some of the differences among people.
Yeah, all of you are beautifully said. I want to thank all of you guys for your time. Just to plug tomorrow's event, there's a Jewish Women in Sports panel, which I'll also be running with a great group of women, all in leadership roles in baseball, lacrosse, and basketball. So that will be really great. And I want to thank Josh, Craig, and Danny for their time and expertise. And this is literally, no joke, but an all-star lineup of Jewish athletes and baseball players. And thank you all. And Josh, we hope to see you in the major soon, right?
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully very soon.
And thank you to Michelle for organizing everything.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate this. Michelle. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day.
Later, guys. See you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.